So with the creative team of Synthetic Hope, played at this Fantasy Sci-Fi Film Festival with Chris Hinton, who is the writer-director, and Brian Todd, who is the producer. The interesting thing about this film is that the quote unquote AI that you have in the film is not CGI. CGI. You guys created the robot yourselves, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I wanted to do something that used kind of the old school sci-fi effects because I thought, like, especially back in the 80s, that's when they had the coolest sci-fi out and they didn't have a whole lot, if any, computer generated.
Gotcha. So the premise of the script is that a young girl is basically is in a prison. We're kind of figuring it out during the movie, like why she is, and then she unleashes an AI to help her escape. That's sort of the teaser of the film, correct?
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
So where did this idea spawn from? Is there a larger idea here? Is it a standalone short? Like what was the idea the concept of the idea?
Yeah, there's a feature length, story here, but this short was more of like a proof of concept test because one, we had to create a robot. So that was like the biggest hurdle, I think, is like, hey, can we pull it off and will it look believable on film? And which this is why we really did the short, kind of see how it would go.
So it's showing people that this is a great idea for a feature film,
Well, I hope people think that, yeah.
while still being a standalone short film at the same time.
Yeah, correct.
So Brian, when did you come into this project? When did you first read the idea or the script?
Yeah, so Chris approached me in November of last year. He said he had an idea and a script mostly written. And I had worked with Chris before on a previous production where he was an actor and I was doing DP work. And so we had a little bit of a relationship before that. And then he sent me the script in early December. I read through it and I thought, wow, this is quite cool. I really enjoyed it with the storyline and the action. And it had a nice dark humor to it. I like a bit of dark humor, and the AI as well is a little futuristic. It kind of gave off a Blade Runner type of vibe to me with the AI and the robot and all that. And so I just generally got more involved. I was originally, I think, slated to do more of the DP work, but in the end decided to do the producing first AD work.
Gotcha. So did you guys find the best version of the short film within the feature script? Like, did you guys find the right? How did you like basically? How did you find the right story to tell for a short?
Yeah, we went through quite a few versions of the script to kind of make it work as a short. Because this short is only like one segment of the story where V is in this warehouse and this is where she breaks out. That's like a small part of the whole story. Um, so we kind of just made that work as a really short story too, with a beginning, middle, and end.
So where are we in the world? Like, what year is it?
It's about 20, I would say about 20 years ahead.
Because I'm watching the film and I'm like, you always look for fashion, right? You always try to like see the fashion, and she's got she's got a unique hairstyle. She's got almost like 90s or like, but I don't even know how would you describe her wardrobe. Like she's got a skirt and like, but it's like a not like a quote unquote feminine skirt. I guess it's like she's an ass kicker, I guess, but with a skirt, I guess.
Yeah, so I was really inspired by the cyberpunk genre,
Okay.
and so I was like, hey, there's not a whole lot of punk themed movies out. Like I like the color schemes and like some of the crazy stuff they're wearing, and I wanted to make another cyberpunk stylized film, and I thought it fit really well with the story I was telling. It makes sense the two would go. So that's kind of the look we were going for with all the characters. It's just, it's hard because you try and visualize, okay, 20 years from now, what's going to be the end fashion, you know?
Yeah. Well, you can't predict that, right? So
So maybe we'll influence it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's generally a mismatch of different eras, right? That's sort of what, and then it's like art steals from the past and then they make it the present, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess everything revolves, right? So what was hot in the 80s, 20, 30 years, fast forward, might be hot again. I mean, I'm kind of seeing some 80s fads now with some of the younger people, which is
So Brian, is DP like you're a cinematographer by trade, or is that what you usually do, or?
Yeah, I started out doing a bit of DP work, mostly in the camera department, and it's something that I enjoy. I've actually been gravitating more toward directing. I find that I like that quite a bit as well. And yeah, I'm starting to I took some creative writing classes and script writing classes, so trying to get in that as well. But yeah, camera department was generally where have been. Yes.
So what did you learn from this film?
So there's very good amount, being that this was the first time I was a producer role and first AD role. So um, being the first AD, you're the whip cracker. You got to keep the schedule. You got to make all the call sheets, and you got to make sure the cast and the crew are on time. So I definitely learned that you have to do that, in a nice manner. There's a lot of different personalities on the cast and the crew, and you kind of got to figure each person out and how they like to be dealt with. So I think Chris and I both did a very good job with working with the crew and the cast and the different personalities. And overall, I think the cast and crew were just fantastic. Just everyone in the cast knew their role and knew their lines, and the crew were really good with all the equipment and camera lighting and all that. So it was quite pleasant. But I think I learned, yeah, the interpersonal communication is a big one, and how to deal with all the different types of personalities.
So
well,
the
and I
spoiler alert, the robot shows up around 11 minutes in, and who created the robot?
that was mine.
So you created the robot, sort of like like what was the influence? Like what influenced you to build it in that type of manner?
Um, so I was inspired to do this robot from a song I was listening to by Hybrid, it's Gravastar. And I was like, oh, the beginning of that song, the first 30 seconds sounds like a robot booting up, like what it would hear internally. So I was like, oh, I got to make something for this song. It's cool. And so I started digging around the internet at different 3D models of people's concepts of, androids and stuff. And I came across this guy in Russia made this really cool looking robot. And I was like, that would be cool. Like, that's the one I want to use. And I tried and tried to get a hold of this guy, but I think with everything that's going on with Ukraine, I think we were being filtered. Like, it didn't seem like any messages were getting through. And so, because I would have loved to have gotten his 3D models of this so I could get some good reference and, include him in the film and all that, but it didn't work out. So his his 3D model really inspired me, and I took a lot of like what he designed and kind of made it my own in a way. Um, I didn't like duplicate it, but it sure did like help, I guess motivate me to build it this way.
Is there somebody? There's somebody in the robot, the costume, right?
Yeah, yeah. So what I did is I did a live cast of the actress that I wanted to play the robot. And then I basically sculpted the robot around her so it fits like a shell. Because I didn't want it to be too bulky. It's supposed to be a feminine robot. So right, if it's too big and bulky, it's not gonna have that effect. So it was kind of challenging because the other thing is she can't see the because the eyes are all lit. So she's blinded.
Oh wow, okay.
When you're watching the movie, she can't see anything.
So she's doing like the action scene,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Blind.
Yeah, she did a whole fight scene blind. I thought she did really well.
Gotcha. And so, but you couldn't figure out how to like give her sight?
I didn't have the time, so I'd have to like offset her face from the robot's face so she could see maybe below the eyes or maybe above. But I just, shoot, we pumped this thing out pretty fast. I talked to Brian in November. I think I started doing the live cast in January, and then we were filming the end of February. So it didn't really leave a lot of time because not only I had to create this robot, I also had to do all the stuff for the film too, like getting the cast together,
Yeah.
table reads, all that. So it was a lot.
So tell me about the cast. Where did you find your lead actress?
So most of the cast were people I had acted with prior. I just called them up and, hey, I got this idea. You guys want to be in it? The actress V is I'm really good friends with her mom. We grew up together, and I was having dinner with them probably like a year ago, and I hadn't seen them in years. And she's like, "Hey, my daughter's trying to get into acting. She's done a little bit and some modeling." So I figured, hey, you know what? I need a younger actress for this role. Let me give her a shot. And I think she did really well in it.
And you guys edited the films yourselves, right? Like you guys edited the films together?
Yeah. So Chris actually found an editor probably in January and was kind of talking to him, and the editor seemed interested, and I think he actually signed up for it. And so once we finished filming, Chris got in contact with him, and I think we put the files up on the server, and we didn't hear anything from him for maybe 5 days or a week. And then Chris and I talked and said, okay, let's split this up, do it ourselves. And yeah, so we ended up doing it ourselves. It was, I've done a bit of editing. I think Chris had done a bit of editing before, but doing the whole thing, color grading, color correction, some exposure correction, then dealing with all the sound, if there's some sound issues. And then Chris did all the music. So he selected all the music and added that, which was great. And I thought the music really felt and added a lot to the mood of the film. So just kudos to Chris for that.
What happened to the editor?
Um, it's hard to say.
Maybe he got busy or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, we didn't really hear from him. So I don't know, me and Chris were kind of, I guess, at the end happy because we had a little bit more creative control over how we wanted it to look. So we weren't necessarily too bummed out. We liked that we could take that creative control ourselves and maybe have that vision. So, there's the good and the bad. You hear a lot of people say you shouldn't edit your own stuff, but I think in this case, it seemed like it worked out well.
And you guys did the sound design as well?
Yeah.
Yep. So Chris did most of the music sound design, and then both of us, we did the like special effects and other stuff, sound design for our scenes. We basically split that 50-50. But yeah. Yep.
And so basically, like, was it always like set to be around 16 minutes?
Yeah. I wanted it 15 minutes because somewhere in my head, I thought if we're submitting this anywhere for festivals or anything to be considered a short, it has to be 15 minutes. And Brian's like, it doesn't have to be exactly 15 minutes. So we went a minute over, but I thought we hit it pretty good though with our planning.
Gotcha. And then it kind of ends on a kind of twist, I guess, right? The film?
Yeah, I wanted it to end where you want more. That tells me that people are interested, right? And everybody that's seen it has told me they're like, hey, well, what happens after? Like even the people that were in it, they're like, I know it ends at that door, but I'm waiting to see what happens next. So
Yeah.
that was good.
So what happens next?
That's to be continued.
Gotcha. And what did you guys think of we sent the audience to you. What did you think of what our audience had to say about your film?
I liked it. That was really helpful. It was good hearing total strangers with no attachment to the film to hear their honest opinion. Like I was saying, you know, a lot of times if you ask friends and family, you know, how do you know you're getting a true response? You know, even with the cast, because they're kind of invested in it, they might just, you know, everybody's drinking the same Kool-Aid or something. But it was good to get a take on strangers, like what did they feel about it, and you know, how did they see it?
Yeah, same here. I thought that it was good feedback. I think some of the points they're making about specific time in the show, what they liked or how it affected them, was, I think, very valuable. And so I think that, yeah, it was good to get that feedback from that impartial people.
So what do you, Chris, Brian first, what are you working on now?
Yep. So now just helping out a bunch of friends doing some odds and ends stuff as a part of the crew. So just doing odds and end crew work. So I'll be helping out doing some PA work for 2 different friends at this point. Yeah. And writing a little bit of some sketch comedy, like 3 to 5 minute comedy sketch pieces.
Yeah. How about yourself, Chris?
I am working on an expanded version of this Synthetic Hope, and also at the same time I'm helping out a friend with his film.
Gotcha. And I'm assuming you guys want to make a bigger project of this film?
I'd like to. I think it got a good response. It definitely was a lot of fun making, and there's a lot of different directions we can go with it. So I think it would be a good idea to continue with it.
Yeah, I think so. Chris talked about the cast and how he knew most of the cast. So with the crew, the crew we had, I knew most of the crew that we work with. I brought in a lot of people that I had worked with before. And so we had a good working relationship with the cast and crew since we had been working before. And I think the crew and of course the cast were just fantastic. Our DP, he had a Sony FX6. So I think that worked out well with the low light. We were shooting in a lot of low light in that warehouse.
Mhm.
So we did get a bit of grain in the final footage. So we did actually use a bit of a denoiser tool that we had that actually worked quite wondrous. It removed a lot of that noise that we were pretty satisfied with. So
You're asking what did we learn from this?
Yeah.
One thing, well, there's 2 things here, right? Really important. One, don't try and shoot in too low of light because it's a headache. That took a lot of time in editing to clean up and make it look somewhat presentable. The other thing we filmed this in a weekend, 2 days, and I really think looking back on it, it would have been better if we would have stretched that out, not been so aggressive with our timeline.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well,
Yeah,
guys, congratulations on the film. I really appreciate your conversation, and let's talk again when you guys make your next film.
sounds good.
thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.